Season 6 of Young Sheldon demonstrates that the show must retell the first TBBT backstory. Hello everyone, my name is Alana. Welcome to my channel. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And give this video a like. Up note. This section contains Young Sheldon Season 6 Episode 13 spoilers. Although George Sr. will shortly be killed off in Young Sheldon Season 6, a very poignant scene in the Big Bang Theory spin-off has definitively shown that the show must retcon this plot. Young Sheldon has progressively strayed from the canon of the Big Bang Theory over time. When the spin-off premiered, Young Sheldon was already a drastic departure from the multi-camera hangout structure of the Big Bang Theory, as it was a single-camera family sitcom without a laugh track. But the spin-off deviated even more from the tone of the Big Bang Theory, as Young Sheldon leaned more and more into the Cooper clan's complexities. The offshoot hasn't always benefited from this. While the spin-off demonstrated with numerous endearing storylines centered around the irascible but ultimately decent George Sr., that Sheldon's relationship with his father was more complex than he ever acknowledged as an adult. Young Sheldon proved the Big Bang Theory wasted Missy by transforming the original show's one-note character into a fully developed, compelling heroine. Out of all the narrative details that both the demise of George Sr., however, highlights the primary problem with the canon of both Young Sheldon and the Big Bang Theory. Related, Georgie twist from the Big Bang Theory is hinted at in Young Sheldon Season 6. According to the canon of the Big Bang Theory, Sheldon's early teens are when George Sr. passed away. However, the touching chat between Mary and George Sr. in Young Sheldon Season 6, Episode 13, a frat party, a sleepover, and the mother of all blisters, when the two were unable to sleep because they were worried about Missy, demonstrated that the spin-off could not kill off George so quickly. Missy and Sheldon had a unique chance to collaborate when Paige returned to Young Sheldon, but the most disarming moment of the program occurred when George Sr. Mary reassured George Sr. that he might soon look forward to becoming a grandfather, and they shared memories of their difficult parenting days. According to canon, George Sr. is unlikely to live to witness Mandy and Georgie's child's birth. This Young Sheldon scenario, however, demonstrated that the spin-off ought to alter the plot. It would have been hard for the show's makers to foresee how captivating George Sr. would become in Young Sheldon, given how young Sheldon was when his father passed away, as revealed by the Big Bang Theory. Things such as the Young Sheldon Jim Parsons narration demonstrates how heavily the spin-off's early seasons relied on its relationship to the Big Bang Theory, but George Sr.'s more nuanced and unexpectedly likable role demonstrates that the program has since completely shifted its tone. The interactions between the Cooper family members provide the most heartfelt dramatic moments, and, importantly, the largest chuckles for little Sheldon. Sheldon's conflicts with his siblings, and Mary and George Sr.'s efforts to maintain their marriage, the emotional core of Young Sheldon, is Georgie's attempts to establish himself, and the removal of a key character like George Sr. would upset this equilibrium. The spin-off has set up stories that come up years later in the Big Bang Theory, whether it's Georgie's attempts to impress his parents ultimately turning into bitterness, or the Meemaw relationship explaining Sheldon's trust concerns later in life. This does not, however, imply that Young Sheldon Season 6 must adhere to the Big Bang Theory canon if doing so puts the spin-off's own plotline in danger. Putting a prior show's lore ahead of the story if the spin-off murders George Sr., that could be a catastrophic error for Young Sheldon Season 6. Young Sheldon has already demonstrated that George Sr. was a better spouse and a more understanding father than Sheldon and Mary had claimed. Keeping George Sr. alive would be a far more agreeable option than killing him off, which could be a depressing explanation for Sheldon's pessimistic outlook in the Big Bang Theory. Related, one missing sitcom trend could help Young Sheldon's TBT backstory. Season 6 doesn't have to take place when George Sr. passes away, because young Sheldon has never adhered strictly to its predecessor's canon. Instead, the spin-off might extend his tenure by revising the canon. Emotional detachment would be perfectly normal for him to forget something as significant as his father's passing, and this might provide the spin-off the opportunity to use George Sr. for more plot points before he leaves the series. Young Sheldon must do this for the benefit of its characters, even though the spin-off of The Big Bang Theory could get away with it. Young Sheldon has become a fan-favorite prequel to the massively popular sitcom The Big Bang Theory, offering us a deeper look into the childhood of Sheldon Cooper, the quirky genius who became a household name. Over the years, fans have eagerly followed Sheldon's journey through his early years, his struggles with social interactions, and his development into the iconic figure we all know. However, a shocking revelation in Young Sheldon Season 6 has now thrown a major wrench into the carefully crafted backstory of Sheldon's adult life in The Big Bang Theory. It's so big that young Sheldon might just need to retcon one of TBT's most important storylines. This season of Young Sheldon has been packed with surprises, but nothing quite as shocking as the realization that The Big Bang Theory could be wrong about one of its most significant plot points. As fans have pointed out, Season 6 of Young Sheldon has cast serious doubt on the accuracy of Sheldon's backstory in The Big Bang Theory, and it's clear now that a retcon is more than necessary. Let's break it down. Could young Sheldon be rewriting Sheldon's past? Is it time for TBD fans to acknowledge that a major element of Sheldon's childhood must be changed for everything to make sense? If you're a die-hard fan of The Big Bang Theory, you probably remember Sheldon's infamous backstory about his childhood. Throughout TBBT, Sheldon has often referenced his complicated upbringing in East Texas, and many of the details are woven into his adult life. One major point of tension was the relationship between Sheldon and his father, George Cooper Sr., who was portrayed as a somewhat distant and flawed figure. Sheldon's painful memories of his father have been a cornerstone of his adult character, and these flashbacks have been critical in explaining his often cynical and isolated nature. However, young Sheldon has begun to seriously complicate this narrative, especially in Season 6. If you've been keeping up with the latest season, you might have noticed that the version of George Cooper Sr. in Young Sheldon doesn't exactly line up with the emotionally distant and occasionally antagonistic father Sheldon described in The Big Bang Theory. In fact, Season 6 of Young Sheldon shows a very different side to George, one that raises major questions about the accuracy of Sheldon's recollections in TBD. In Young Sheldon, we're given glimpses of a more complex, even loving, version of George Cooper Sr. Sure, he has his flaws, but he's portrayed as someone who loves his family and is deeply invested in Sheldon's growth. This portrayal directly contradicts Sheldon's TBT depiction of his father as someone who didn't understand him and often disappointed him. Here's the kicker. Young Sheldon Season 6 reveals some key moments between Sheldon and George that have never been hinted at in The Big Bang Theory. There are instances where George shows genuine care for Sheldon, encouraging him in ways that make the hard-nosed, detached figure we see in TBBT feel almost out of place. For example, in an emotionally charged episode, George takes the time to bond with Sheldon over a shared activity, showing patience and a level of affection that we've never seen, in contrast to the cold, emotionally unavailable George we saw in The Big Bang Theory. According to Sheldon in TBBT, his father didn't take his interests seriously, wasn't supportive of his academic pursuits, and had a strained relationship with him, something that left Sheldon emotionally scared. Yet young Sheldon has now offered a version of George that's far more warm, relatable, and engaged with Sheldon's life, which raises an uncomfortable question. Could Sheldon have exaggerated his childhood memories for the sake of his adult narrative? It's not just about a few pleasant moments between Sheldon and his father. It's the fact that Season 6 of Young Sheldon is showing a more involved and loving George, which directly contradicts Sheldon's more hostile accounts in TBBT. The two versions of George simply don't align, and fans are starting to notice. This massive inconsistency can't be ignored, and it's clear that young Sheldon is building a narrative that could very well force a retcon in The Big Bang Theory. Sheldon's memories of his father in TBBT have played such a crucial role in shaping his personality, his relationships, and his behavior, especially when it comes to his interactions with his mother, Mary Cooper, and his romantic relationships in adulthood. Given that Sheldon's strained relationship with his father has been such a major theme throughout The Big Bang Theory, young Sheldon's portrayal of George as a more emotionally present and nurturing father could completely rewrite Sheldon's past, and that's a problem. Fans have started to speculate that young Sheldon might eventually take the opportunity to retcon Sheldon's memories of his father, adjusting the backstory to fit the more positive version of George that we're seeing on screen. If this is the case, fans of The Big Bang Theory could see Sheldon's recollections of his father morph into something less cynical and more understanding. Perhaps Sheldon will begin to realize that his memories were distorted by time, pain, or even his own self-centered perspective. After all, Sheldon is known for having a rather skewed view of his past, so it wouldn't be out of the question for him to reevaluate his relationship with George as he grows older. Of course, not all fans are happy about this potential retcon. Many TBBT fans feel that Sheldon's memories of his father are crucial to understanding his personality and motivations. They argue that rewriting Sheldon's backstory in young Sheldon would undermine years of character development in The Big Bang Theory. After all, Sheldon's relationship with his father has been a cornerstone of his character arc, and changing it could feel like a betrayal of the original show. Moreover, fans have expressed concern that altering such a significant part of Sheldon's history would fundamentally change the way we understand his complicated emotional state in The Big Bang Theory. Sheldon's estranged relationship with his father helped explain his difficulty with empathy and his often cold demeanor. If that relationship is retconned, it could shake the very foundation of Sheldon's character in ways that might not sit well with longtime fans. As of now, it's unclear whether young Sheldon will officially retcon Sheldon's backstory in The Big Bang Theory, but it's becoming increasingly evident that the show is positioning itself to do so. With George Cooper Sr. now being portrayed as a more loving and supportive father, it's hard to ignore the growing tension between the two versions of his character. For now, fans will have to wait and see whether young Sheldon will continue down this path and rewrite one of TBT's most iconic storylines. If the show does decide to retcon Sheldon's memories of his father, it will undoubtedly be a game changer, and not everyone will be happy about it. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay with us.